Welcome everyone to the show. Today we have with us Ruchit Garg, who's the founder and CEO of Harvesting Co. He's been with Nine Slides. He's the chairman of Shobit University Alumni Network and is ex-Microsoft person. He was in the US. That's when I know him from. And apparently he's doing some cool stuff, returning back to India. And I said interesting because he's into farming and a lot of people aspire to do many of the things that he's actually doing now. So I think there's a lot we can learn from Ruchit today. So let's go ahead and find out from Ruchit what are the things he's doing, what we can get inspired from him, and maybe take some advice along the way. So Ruchit, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Manny.
Great. I hope I didn't get that intro wrong. I mean, I picked it up from your Twitter bio, so pardon me if I missed anything.
Yeah. No, this is
cool.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome. So Ruchit, can you tell us a little bit of background about you? I mean, I know you from the Silicon Valley days where you were working in the US. I'm not sure if it was the Valley or you were in the US working with Nine Slides. That was a company you founded, I believe.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, how we got connected, but I know we are connected. So.
Right. So that was the start, or can you give us a little bit of context?
I grew up in India. I grew up in Lucknow. Part of my life was in Lucknow. Then we went to West Bengal for many years. Came back to Lucknow, did my master's from Meerut, and then long story short, after a few years of work, started working for Microsoft R&D in Hyderabad. From there, I went to Redmond headquarters, helped build Xbox operating system, mobile phone, things like that, as a PM, technical PM. Left Microsoft in 2011, built my first US company, Nine Slides, that got acquired in 2015-ish. Then around that time, I saw some recognition and all the other things which comes with selling a company. Realized that it's not worth it in terms of just building which is very monetary focus. I wanted something, the next venture I wanted, obviously I want this to be hugely successful company, the next venture, whatever it may be, but something which can actually help people at the bottom of pyramid. So my grandfather was a small farmer back in India. He died long ago, but I had that probably back in the mind. So in 2016, I started this company called Harvesting.
Okay.
Where the core goal here is to enable smallholder farmers across the world. That's my background, and then in last year I decided to move to India. I don't know what all questions you would have, so I'm just keeping it very short.
Sure. That's quite a interesting journey. So what made you think about returning back to India?
Primarily, I was traveling a lot. I was doing an international trip every month from California to Kenya or Nigeria or Myanmar or maybe in Europe, Netherlands or something, all related to work. And one thing was, hey, if I go to India, probably the trips would be shorter because I am on this side of the world a lot more.
Okay.
Second, my kids were growing up. They are still growing. They're growing, and they haven't seen really India. They always came here as a visitor, and so I thought it was a good idea for them to stay here. Spend time with grandparents, see India a little bit more. So all that put together, I said, let's just go back and see how it works out.
Yeah. Got it. And how's life after you come back to India? Has it been different? Because one thing that we've seen is that a lot of people who are in the US left, a long time back, and they have the expectations are very different because they've seen India from a very long time back, and when they come back here, things are very different. So, did you go through the same thing, or?
Little bit. I mean, I definitely I live in Chandigarh, which is supposedly the most planned city in India. And I could still feel myself, why this is this, why this, nobody parks properly, or there's so much honking and stuff like that.
Right.
But I think it has gone away to large extent now. I think I'm now guilty of, not following, the lanes and stuff like that. Because one there's no lanes, and if there are lanes, then nobody follows it. So
Right.
now I'm amongst the crowd. So no long I'm less anxious about, why this is not working, and things like that. So I'm kind of getting more normalized, I guess.
Got it. Got it. And well, like when you thought about harvesting, I know it's something uh, not many people. I mean, a lot of people think about farming, but this is something really, I would even say, revolutionary in the sense that it's making a profound impact on people's lives, not only farmers but also people who use the service and product. So, how did this idea come about? And tell us a little bit more about what you do with harvesting right now.
Sure. So there's a lot of background to it. Everything revolves around smallholder farmers. So when I started this 4 years ago, what I realized that there are about 480 million smallholder farmers in entire world, and they feed 80% of entire planet. They are the fundamental backbone of who drives this multi-trillion-dollar annual agriculture market, but they happen to be amongst the most underserved community in the world.
True.
So that's one part of the story. Other part of the story is, like, if you look world from the food perspective, there are about 800 million people who sleep hungry every night, and there are 2 billion more people about to come in 30 years. So unless you fix this food system, it's going to be pretty bad for human as a species, as a race.
Yeah.
So when you look into what issues farmers have, there are fundamentally three issues: access to market, access to inputs such as seeds and fertilizers, and access to financial tools such as insurance and loans. And if you kind of dig deeper, from my perspective, me being data technology guy, I realized that this is all a function of information asymmetry. So there is huge asymmetry between information gap between the smallholder farmer and anyone else in the value chain. So let me unfold that a little bit. So there are a lot of loan companies out there, banks there, who can loan to farmer because that's very lucrative. But there's a lot of friction in there because it's very hard to figure out where the farmer actually is. He's so far, his farm is small. There's no really good way to understand, how much papaya he may be growing and what may be his net worth and what may be his W2 stuff. There's no W2 there, right? There's no bookkeeping happening there. So that's a function of information missing. Everything is happening. So if we could somehow make it easier and affordable and timely, if that information is available to stakeholders, then we can suddenly solve a lot of these problems at its core. So that was the fundamental thesis with what I started harvesting. Primarily, when we started, we thought, okay, using satellite data, if we capture the data from the satellite and analyze it, that would be the fastest way to understand where are the farms, what is getting grown, and so forth. So we processed, many 400 million miles squares of, land across the globe, and then processed it into different formats and stuff like that. And we still do it in parts of world, explaining private organizations and governments that, hey, you have these many crops. This is what is looking like. This is how it changed over the years, and so forth. But lately, we have been getting involved into something entirely different. Once I moved to India, obviously, being here on the ground zero per se, I was able to interact with a lot more farmers. We started building network of farmers on the ground. We reached to about 10 lakh farmers in 22 different states.
Wow.
But then we were helping them give some sort of advisory. So we had a mobile app where farmers could just log in, and they'll say, hey, I have a leaf which has black dots or it's turning yellow, and what may be the issue, and so forth. And other farmers would give them advice. But it wasn't necessarily, we were not seeing the hockey stick, per se, or it wasn't like buzzing. Maybe we didn't design the app appropriately. But during this lockdown, what I realized that, again, not necessarily as a business model, but what I realized that, hey, we have to help these farmers. We were seeing every day they were having to throw the crops on the road or on the river, or they were feeding even the mushrooms and broccolis to their cows and buffaloes, because it was getting rot. So we just logged in these high rise and we said, like, okay, can we do something about it? I already have a network of farmers, and we just started tweeting about it. And that sort of took off. So in about 75 days roughly now, we have listed probably 500 lakh kilos of fresh fruits and vegetable on our system. We have enabled directly or indirectly sale of several lakh kilos of fruits and vegetables, all pro bono, wherein if I tweet about it, farmer would get a call, sometimes 30 calls a day.
Nice.
And many farmers sold many thousand kilos every day because we were just tweeting about them.
That's wonderful.
So yeah.
So how's the logistics? I mean, is this available throughout India, or is it localized in one particular region currently, or do you have plans to scale?
So initially it was all about, hey buyer, here's a farmer, go work together. What I did, again, information, I just made it easy for people to find where the farmer is. The way I was talking to some other guy, that for many urban dwellers like us, farmer is a mythical character they see in the TV, that there's something called farmer and stuff like that. They don't know exactly who to call and the farmer. So the first sort of a version of it, if I can say, or the attempt to it was, hey, let's just put the information about the farmer online, and if buyer wants to buy, they will buy directly. And a lot of people bought. What we did back then, about 2 months ago, that, hey, if you get stuck in some transportation issue, because now it is little loose in terms of curfew, but the phase 1 was very strong. So we helped. If a farmer got a 20,000 kilo deal or something and said, Saab, I can't go to the, even railway station to put the, crop, I would call the local bureaucrat, IAS officer or something, that, hey, we need an e-pass for this guy. And we would get an e-pass. We would then call transportation guy. I also spoke to Indian Railways. They actually, they were even willing to put a special train for me. That, hey, we had, this thing sort of opened the whole, how do I explain,
there's a lot of goodwill. There's a lot of goodwill from the community, I believe.
Yes. Everybody sort of came forward to help this. And it is a community effort, but I ended up being in the center of it and leading it. So that's how we were doing it. Now what we are doing, now that we realize this is the problem, and there are a lot more things we can solve systematically. Whatever we were putting on Twitter, it's very hard to search and things like that, because now the traffic has increased. I have 10,000 followers in like 60 days. We have celebrities with 4 million followers following me, texting me in the night saying, hey, Ruchit, I want to help you, or I want to work with you, from Bollywood and all other places. We thought, okay, the first thing, again, let's organize this information. So we have a portal now, harvestingfn.com, where we first review all the information. So farmers are still sending WhatsApp to us. Then we sort of verify all the information. If we see something doesn't making sense, then team member would call the farmer, make sure that he does mean to say what he is saying it. Then we publish it, and it rolls to Twitter, then it rolls to Facebook. So there's more system to it. We now have enabled switch to it. So that's very simple stuff. But what the next iteration you would see, we are working on securing the payment, transportation, insurance, and storage. So all aspect of two parties dealing, it will be made available online on single click. So if you want to buy 20,000 kilo of, let's say, strawberry from somebody, You can just search. When you search, you will find a farmer. You will find whether it is verified farmer or not, whether we have done KYC or not. If you like the product, we would, one of the largest nationalized bank would secure the transaction. That means there will be a contract between you and the farmer, and payments would be released on the milestones to the farmer, securing both you and the farmer. Because there are instances where the buyer just run away with the product and so forth.
Interesting.
And then we are working with about 5,000 storage, cold storages in India, which will be available. You can easily find them and say, I want space and stuff like that.
Got it. Interesting. That's huge, actually. So all the best with that. I mean, this is really something that is of significant importance to society. So I hope it actually works out great. So how did this idea start about? I mean, was this something that you thought before coming to India, or is this what brought you back to India? How's the?
No, so again, farmer has been the centerpiece of my life for past several years. This particular idea of helping farmers sell, I was not focused on that. I was trying to solve other problems. And during Corona time, which is still, we are living in that time, I think, everybody knew that supply chain is broken, farmer is not getting enough money and so forth. But because the traditional routes of going to mandis have broken, then suddenly there was a behavior change we could see. And there was no other way except going to the Twitter and finding the farmer per se. Right. So they were all, pushed to take some other actions. So people started using alternative methods, both consumers as well as farmers. That led to this, sort of a upswing of, why we were suddenly so important.
Got it.
I did not plan it. I did not knew it. I was originally thinking, that maybe we should improve our app and maybe farmer could sell their produce. But I don't have, enough time to change it, nor do I have, enough, money to spend to make it really awesome the way I want it to. I said, just chuck it, we'll just start posting on Twitter. So on April 12th, I just created the handle and then started posting. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. See, one of the questions that keep coming up in our community, in our groups, is whenever people talk about entrepreneurship and starting something in India, there's that 1% of people who always complain that it's all about bureaucracy and problems, and you'll have to grease people's hands in order to get things done, and those kind of things. So what has been your experience starting up? Has there been problems that you couldn't go ahead with, or how did you crack and come about doing all of this in India amidst all these chaos?
So I would decouple the two things. There's one thing which is entrepreneurship, another thing which is systems issue, right? So let's address them separately, because these are two different things, may have intersection, but obviously system here in India works differently. If I'm being brutally honest, in both systems there are corruptions. Here in India, you see small level corruption on everyday life. There's a lot of corruption in USA as well, but that happens at a larger level. So the way I feel it, if you want to live your life peacefully, you could do that in US. But you are sort of,
because you're not confronting those problems on a day-to-day basis. But here it's like very evident.
You don't have to pay somebody to switch on your electricity. Just put it like that, right? It doesn't mean that there's no corruption in US. There's a lot of corruption in US. But if you are sort of in a different game, you don't have to touch all that.
Got it.
In India, that game is, started at a very low level, essentially. So even if, you have to cross the road, maybe you have to pay something to somebody.
Right.
And it's a function of a lot of things. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, did you come across personally such issues when you started out?
So I started out not in India. I started out way back. My first company was in 2004 in India.
Got
So
it.
I've seen a lot of it. I do feel things are different here. I wish things were more upfront. People go round and round and come back to the, mera kya fayda hai. But it happens. And I don't want to say much.
No, I understand. I mean, but things have been, I think, compared to the last 15, 20 years, things have grown and things have evolved a bit, I believe. Because if we compare to the system back, 20 years, it was probably not even worth starting out, I believe. And now we have more opportunities. So that way, there's a lot of positivity. But of course, it's not the perfect system we got. We got a lot of things to iron out, I believe. I mean, you probably are in the front face of this, which is why I asked you this question.
That's where I was saying this system problem is different, which is corruption and things like that. But the other question was the entrepreneurship thing. In 2004, when I first started company, there was no VCs per se. There was only one angel investor. His name is Mahesh Murthy, and he's still there doing some investment, right?
Pinstorm guy.
Pinstorm, right? Seed fund. And I still remember writing him and he emailing me back and so forth. But there was no fund like how many funds we have now. So now there's a lot of support and meetups and whatnot. So there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of if you know how to navigate. There's a lot of stuff. There are a lot of people who have seen success, gone through startups. They appreciate it. There's money. There are mentors and stuff like that. So from entrepreneurship perspective, this is different. Definitely evolved. How would you compare it with Silicon Valley? It still needs a lot. There's a lot of gap still there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What would be your advice to someone who's willing to, move to India and start something on their own? Do you advise for it or against it? And if yes, in either of these scenarios, what would be your tips and advices from your experience that you could share if possible?
I wouldn't say, you have to move here to start something, right? I'm like, just moving here would be big enough shock. So usually, I'm not against it, but it depends on person and how much passion and perseverance this guy has. There will be a lot of roadblocks unless you already are an entrepreneur wherever you may be. You can't just come to India and say, hey, tomorrow I am an entrepreneur, because just being an entrepreneur wherever you may be is hard enough, very hard enough. Like, so if you are a Microsoft job, leaving that job in Silicon Valley or in Seattle is hard enough, right? You have not even started your entrepreneurship sort of work. And then if you multiply that with effect of going to a different country, that could be huge, toll on anybody. So it depends on the person, whether he has already done something or not. I would advise, if let's say this is some guy who have worked at, let's say, Amazon or Microsoft, have saved a lot of money, maybe come here and join another startup, because even if that startup would not be able to pay you as much as you would otherwise. Right? Second, even if that startup tanks, which happens most of the time, you would still be sort of safe, because I'm assuming you would bring in some dollars with you. And then take that, do it 1 year, 6 months, 2 years, and see how it all works. It's different, it's
good. Get a feel of things, how it is, and kind of try to blend in as opposed to just showing up.
Correct.
Got it. If I may ask, like, how's your family coping up with the change? And you told that they've been visiting previously, so actually bringing them here and relocating as such. What's the experience like?
I think we chose Chandigarh because my family is here. My wife's family is here, and that made it a little easier for us, because that was part of the strategic sort of a decision we took, that hey, let's not go to Hyderabad or Bangalore. Let's from US it's very close compared to, the Bangalore, right? So we can take a flight if there's a meeting. But the reason we are moving is mostly for family things. So why don't we just go live close to the family? And that made our life easier, and it was easier to absorb all the shocks. It's like I still have a hard time navigating around, this, the plumber guy, or, the guy I want to make something, some changes in the apartment I have and stuff like that. So I would just, ask my relatives that, hey, can you handle this? And they will make it work for us. So that is helping us. That's giving us some buffer for us. Yeah. So both
having
family,
people around to help, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
Got it. What has been your biggest shock, like moving here? Like a lot of people complain about traffic or pollution. Is there something you can think of?
I think the biggest thing I felt, maybe because I deal with business and stuff like that, you're always negotiating a contract. It doesn't have to be a contract, like paper contract. But once I have said, hey, we will do A at this time at that cost, that doesn't seem to happen. Like, it's like that guy would keep continuously asking as if I change my mind, or I would have to continuously remind me that, hey, we agreed on Friday 10 a.m. at this price, right? So that there's a continuous negotiation of contract. Contract is a big word, right? It would be just a work contract. So that's very confusing to us, that, whatever I'm saying, I really mean it. Like, just take it, run with it. Let's go for it. And I don't blame other guy. Probably that's how they have evolved. People may have, it's all life experiences, right? So that sort of, I feel, is an extra burden, that why are we continue to negotiate? I recently bought, something, and then it was a high value, and then I felt it's all agreed on, and we just sort of keep going back and forth on the same things. So it just feels a little awkward.
Got it. Yeah, maybe it's the Indian way of getting things done, right? You always have to reassure and remind people, and maybe that's the way it works. But yeah, that's an interesting one. Can you tell me a little bit about Chandigarh? I mean, it's interesting because we have these different city groups in Back to India, and probably the two most popular ones are Hyderabad and Bangalore. So we haven't seen much activity in Chandigarh, although I remember a few people mentioning or asking me if we have groups.
Yeah.
So how's the overall, how do I put it? Is there NRIs coming in there? What is the support like from the rest of the community? Is it easy to get into and blend in?
So Chandigarh has a lot of people with a lot of exposure. And let me put it that way, right? So people who have traveled internationally a lot, Canada, US, London. It's a relatively small city. It's green. It's cleaner. Everything relative. So I like it. It's more disciplined to a lot of extent.
There
are more rules and regulation. You actually get tickets and stuff like that for not following. Yeah, for not following.
That's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, so that way it's wonderful. It's not very far. It's 30, 35, 40 minutes flight to Delhi. I see mountains out my window, things like that. It's pretty nice. I mean, there's no. I think it's a good place to be in. Yeah.
So you would recommend it for people who are...
Yeah, I mean, it depends on priorities, right? I did not choose because there's a mountain outside my window. I chose because my family was there, right? So I felt, I in many ways have been working remotely, in so many different countries, traveling this and that. So I could do all that work here, Chandigarh also. There are a lot of, infrastructure-wise is good. It's definitely not Bangalore, Hyderabad, but I sort of don't like that anymore. Living in Silicon Valley, it's very crowded for me. Bangalore, Hyderabad, I don't want to spend 2 hours just going one way to office. So I cycle here, go to my office and stuff like that. So
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Okay. So we're close to our time limit here. So I'll just end up with 2 questions. One is, what is your advice for people who wants to move back to India or even start on their own? You mentioned a few things like you don't have to come to India to start on your own. You can start from the US itself.
Right.
But just to kind of summarize it, that's the first question. And the second one is, what is your plan with Harvesting Company? You've done a lot of things. You mentioned what we are doing right now, but what is the scale like? Like, where do you see this, in maybe 2 years' time? And if there is anyone who wants to help you in these efforts, how can they?
Okay. So, advice to people, I think just get your priorities right. I would say it's hard for me to believe that people want to come here to start something. I think they're coming here for something else. But then in that process, they also think, oh, no longer job, let's do something different now. So once you get the first priority solved, I think rest will solve on its own. Likely it is because of family. So let's just go to the family, take some time, and you will figure it out. Second thing, harvesting future. I mean, I dream really big. I have no reason to believe why we cannot connect 100 million farmers in India onto Harvesting Farmer Network. It's a free network for farmers. We don't charge anything.
Okay.
We already support 3 different languages, 6 more languages coming, and so forth.
Okay.
How people can connect with us or me, just find us on Twitter, Harvesting FN or Ruchit Garg.
Okay.
Let us know, whatever, there's a lot to be done. Agriculture is massive.
What area, if I may ask, that you're trying to scale? Is it about the logistics side of things, or is the tech part of things, or where do you need help?
Anything and everything, right? It's a company. So from being, hey, I don't know much. I'm a work from home mom looking to volunteer. So now I have a foundation as well, Harvesting Foundation. So if you want to volunteer, while just you want to tiptoe into how India works, so you could start there, and that could mean just administrating the things, to building the WordPress site, to calling the meeting, taking the notes, and helping me articulate the vision and things like that. It could also mean be the fundraiser for me and create the events and stuff. This whole everything. Just let us know what you could do, and we'll try to fit you in somewhere. Yeah, from being a delivery guy to can you run a large operations.
Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's really interesting. Thanks a lot for your time, Ruchit. I mean, this is something really, big that you're doing, and I wish sincerely that you succeed at this and do more interesting and big things for India. And hopefully, I think the community will support you. And I can already see that some of them are interested to help you and volunteer, including myself. So looking forward to that, and wish you all the best. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thanks, Mani. Really appreciate it. Thank you.